What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about what could be the weakest part of Gotham Knights. Now, I'll explain how I got into this kind of mindset. Okay, I don't think negative of Gotham Knights just to do it. I also don't think negative of it all that much. I know maybe early on there was kind of a thing with me where I just always was bashing the game. Not really, and I have a lot of faith in the game. I think the game could be really, really solid, but there are some weaknesses that I have called out, and I want to bring in the interview that I talked about last week, right, with the voice actor of Robin. Great interview. Again, like I encourage you guys to go listen to it if you haven't already. But he said something about his character and like the story that I was, thinking, okay, I want to make a Gotham Knights video. What can I talk about? And I thought about what he said. And I was like, you know what? That makes me think of maybe what could actually not work in this game. So again, I'll explain all of that stuff as the video goes on. If you guys are new here, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys are subscribed, the bell icon turned on so you know all these videos go up. Hit the like button, definitely helps the video out. And also, if you really like my stuff, I do have a second channel. It's called Podcast Now Plus. I do a daily video over there, so much less than this channel. Would love to have you guys over there. Links in the description, as well as obviously you can just look it up over on YouTube. And final, public service announcement. Next week, next Saturday is E3. So I'll be keeping my eyes open. If Warner Bros. Has like a show, obviously we'll cover that. If they don't have a show and they just do announcements, obviously we'll cover that as well. So whether there won't be another Gotham Knights video basically until after, I believe, the show, okay? And whether it's we're talking about new stuff or we're talking about it not being there, that's probably the next thing you can expect, okay, just so everybody knows what's coming, all right? So, all right, what I want to talk about here is what could be the weakest part of Gotham Knights, and that is the characters. That's the characters / the story of the characters. And I'll tell you how I got here. So, I have no doubt that these actors and actresses are talented. I don't even think that I actually do believe in the writing team, certain people of the writing team, okay? But I think like the stories that could be written for the actors and actresses, I think they'll be pretty solid, okay? The thing that caught me when I was like rethinking about that interview, so I was like, okay, is there anything in the interview that I can kind of, elaborate on for a video? He was talking about basically the story of Gotham Knights, right? And I talked about it in that video too, but to recap, basically he was talking about how a big part of the game is going to be these heroes kind of coming to terms with themselves being heroes, right? Some of them are younger than others. Robin, in particular, has only been Robin a little while. He's like a teenager, like he's still in high school. That was a thing that they kind of said through interviews, right? Warner Bros. Montreal. So, like, he's very young, and, his mentor, the person he looked up to, is now gone. And so what does that mean for this group, right? And he said, like, that was a big part of the game, is them kind of coming to terms with them being heroes and them being heroes without Batman. Now, that seems pretty self-explanatory. I don't think that's a bad story, by the way. I actually like that story. I think there's a lot of places you can go there. Now, I also said that I think he's partially telling the truth, but also partially lying, because I do think a big aspect of the story, too, is going to be not wanting to let Batman go in terms of, like, trying to figure out what happened to him. And whether he's alive or dead by the end of the game, obviously the Court of Owls is the main villain. So, like, and they've said there's going to be a lot of detective work in this game, right? All that stuff. So I do think a big part of the game is going to be them hunting down the Court of Owls, figuring out what Batman was doing, right? What got him kind of tangled up in this, and what happened to him. So I think they're going to kind of be like a 1A, 1B story, okay? And he was only talking about half of it when and he probably can't talk about the other half, right? So I'm not blaming him there. But what I want to say, I don't think the Court of Owls storyline is going to be bad. So when I say the weakness of the game is going to be the character / story, I kind of mean, I actually take out the slash, I mean the character story. Because I'm going to bring in my old favorite thing that I have bashed this game on since day one. It got, initially, people hated me for it, and people did not agree with me. But I think over time, people have understood a little bit more about where I was coming from. And that is the co-op nature of the game and the fact that you can play as the same person, as somebody else. Now, let me make this very clear, because I don't think people have always understood what I meant by this, okay? Number one, no, you don't have to play it in co-op, so you can play it all by yourself. 2, do you have to play the same character your friend is playing? So if you're playing with me and I'm playing as Batgirl, do you have to play as Batgirl? No, you've made that choice to do it, right? If you don't want it to be immersion breaking, because, I've always brought that up, that if there's 2 Batgirls playing and it's the same voice and they're kind of, like, it's kind of stupid. It's not actually stupid, but it's more cartoony, it's more comic-y, it's not really it's not realistic. And I guess you could say, well, does it have to be realistic? No, but that's not the vibe I'm getting from the rest of the game. You know what I mean? But that's, to be flat out honest with you guys, that's separate. That's where people, I think, when they criticize me about that, that's kind of as far as they can go with it, but they don't think about it any deeper. And I don't think it's necessarily wrong, but let me continue to go, okay? It's not the fact that you have to play co-op, and it's not the fact that you have to play the same character as somebody else, because you don't. But the issue is, when you're creating a game, you need to keep that in mind as you're doing it. So, yes, do you have to play with two people? No. But is the game going to be is the game going to be made for one person? Not necessarily. Yes, you can play it as one person. And you could say, well, maybe is the game made specifically for two players? Not necessarily. Maybe it's some sort of weird blend. I mean, the best blend would be where it works perfectly, or as close to perfect as you can get with one player, and where it works perfectly or as close to perfectly as you can get with two players. That's the best, that's the best it can be. But it's not going to be like that, okay? It's just not. It's going to, I think, and this is just all my opinions. If you disagree, leave the dislike and let me know, okay? In my opinion, it's probably going to be leaning more towards co-op, okay? And when you have two people and they're the same character, and even if they're not, so this is another thing that I think to keep clear, right? Even if they're not the same character, they can be. And so my argument has always been, since day one, I don't think there's going to be that much, not necessarily personality, but I don't think it's going to feel real / like you're not going to be connected to them as much as, like bring in Uncharted or something, right? Or any game, any single player game where you're playing as one character, but let's pick a game where it's like, so yeah, I'm going to pick Uncharted with Nathan Drake, or you could pick The Last of Us, or Assassin's Creed with like Ezio, a game that's locked you into a character, not a game where it's like a role-playing game where you can change how they look. You could argue that, where maybe you feel connected to your personal Commander Shepard, but you wouldn't feel connected to mine because we're kind of different. And honestly, that's a good way. That's a really powerful way of doing it. And even that, it's just small changes between what happens with a male Shepard versus a female Shepard. Actually, Mass Effect or any game like that, Dragon Age, those are good games to kind of, I would say, model yourself after. But the issue, again, with Gotham Knights is, it could still be you could still play as the same character as somebody else. So when you're writing lines and when Mr. Freeze is talking to you, how personable is it going to be? You know what I mean? How much are we going to go in depth? So my main issue with, Robin's voice actor saying about how, the story's going to be on them doing it, well, the issue is, what's funny, I guess, is the story for one kind of has to be the story for all. In fact, it took me 8 minutes to get here, but that's actually what I wanted. That's what my brain was trying to get me to. That's the issue, okay? Now, I guess you could say, well, they could all be technically having the exact same problem as the other person, I guess, okay? But in reality, in a game where they're each individuals and maybe you take turns as playing them and they lock you into them during certain missions, stuff where you're very rigid in your structure, right? There would be a lot more personality. You would feel connected. The lines are obviously for that person. If they're directing it towards that person, or that person is saying a line, it's for that specific person. So that's, and again, maybe I'm still not saying it the way I fully feel about it, so maybe you guys still don't understand what I'm getting at, but that's kind of it too, right? So again, if you're in a story mission and you're playing as Robin, well, his lines are kind of generic, aren't they? Because you can be saying, now we don't know for sure, maybe they are different. Maybe they have an entire script where it's like, okay, if you play mission number 3 as Robin, here's the lines. If you play mission number 3 as Batgirl, they're completely different lines. But to be honest with you, I don't think that'll be the case. I think the lines are going to be, I don't think they'll be exactly the same, but I think they'll be very, very similar. And again, to me, even taking out the co-op part, all of that, so even if it was a single player game, but they gave you the option of 4 different characters, and it doesn't matter which one you pick. You could play as Batgirl the entire time, never play the other 3. Well, again, don't you think, actually think about it like that. They're just wasting their time writing stories for the other ones if you can just play all the way as Batgirl, right? But if the stories are all very much the same, or close to the same, then it doesn't matter. You're not really they're not wasting their time, because if you play Batgirl's story, her story is going to be very similar to the other ones, okay? Now, maybe that's not true, and maybe I'm missing small intricacies. I don't believe they've ever said, like, there's specific missions that only certain people can play. I'm pretty sure they've said any mission can, because I know that. They've said you can play the entire game as one of the characters, and that's it. You never have to touch the others. So to me, it's just that's what and again, I'm not guaranteeing it's going to suck. I'm not guaranteeing that means the game's a 2 out of 10, okay? I don't even do review scores. So, I don't give review scores. So I'm not saying it's a doomsday thing, but it's just been a thing literally since not even the fact that you play as these guys, and I know just not having Batman around has alienated like a certain percentage of the fandom. Like, I get that. I don't agree with that, because obviously I'm still talking about it. I'm still going to buy it, so I'm not, part of that group, but I understand that group. And but I've never, that's not even been my mindset. My mindset since day one has always been, you're taking out some sort of personality to these characters. You're taking out some sort of connectiveness that I have with these 4 characters, because flat out, they're not going to feel, I think, fully unique, fully as individuals, because you can play as the same one with another person. You can play different combinations of players, and so like their dialogue has to be close. Again, like when the villains see Batgirl and they talk, will they say something related to Batgirl? Probably. But what if there's 2 Batgirls? Isn't that just stupid? Doesn't that kind of just break the whole thing? And again, yeah, that's a very small way of looking at it. And I know people have like made fun of me or attacked me about that. But again, take some steps back and now look at it the way I've tried to present it in this video. I just don't think their stories are going to be all that complicated. They're not going to be all that dynamic. They're not going to be all that different from each other. And I think that's going to hurt the game more than like not having Batman. People that say, it doesn't have Batman, so it may not do as well. I think this will hurt the game so much more than that. It's just my opinion, but that is my opinion. Okay. So let me know, guys, in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think this is as bad as I kind of make it out to be? Let me know. As always, make sure, again, you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, leave a like if you guys want to subscribe to my second channel, Podcast Now Plus, links in the description. I really appreciate you guys still tuning in, still watching this stuff. It means a lot to me. Like I said, I'm gonna stop, the next week. We'll see what happens at E3. We'll do a video, kind of directly after, or, if Warner Bros. Has a show and Gotham Knights is there, I mean, obviously, there'll be a video like 10 seconds after it's done, okay? So make sure you guys stay tuned for all that stuff. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you all on the next video.